Maya lived a quiet life in a small town where days passed slowly and dreams often felt delayed. She worked long hours at a grocery store during the day and cleaned offices at night just to keep things running. Money was always tight and every decision had weight. She shared a small home with her younger sister and promised herself that one day life would feel lighter. She never imagined that an ordinary afternoon would push her toward a moment that changed everything. That day began with trouble when the old bus she used every evening stopped suddenly on the road. The driver said it would take hours to fix and everyone had to walk or find another way home. Maya sighed and adjusted her bag on her shoulder. She started walking along a dusty road that passed a forgotten car yard she had never noticed before. Rusted gates stood open and silence filled the space like a memory that refused to leave. As Maya walked past the yard, she saw it standing alone near the back. A 1965 Ford Mustang rested under the fading sunlight like a tired legend. Its blue color had faded and its body showed marks of time and neglect. The tires were flat and the windows were cloudy, but the shape of the car still held strength. Maya stopped walking and felt her breath slow. Something about the car felt familiar and warm even though she had never owned a vehicle before. She stepped closer and touched the door gently. The metal was cool and rough under her fingers. In her mind she could almost hear the engine from long ago and imagine it moving freely on open roads. She did not understand why she felt drawn to it, but the feeling stayed strong. That was when she noticed an old man sitting on a wooden chair near the gate. He watched her quietly, as if waiting for her to speak. The old man introduced himself as Frank, and his voice was calm but tired. He said the yard used to be busy years ago, but now it was only a place for old memories. When Maya asked about the Mustang, his face changed slightly. His eyes softened, and he stood up slowly as if the name itself carried weight. He said the car had not been driven in years, and most people ignored it. Maya asked if it was for sale, even though she knew she should walk away. Frank looked at her for a long moment before answering. He said everything in the yard was for sale if the right person asked. Maya swallowed and asked how much the Mustang cost. She expected a number far beyond her reach and prepared herself for disappointment. Frank surprised her by saying $600. The words felt unreal in the quiet air. Maya blinked and asked him to repeat the price. He nodded slowly and said the same amount again. Her heart raced as she thought about her savings and the risk she would take. She knew the car did not run and repairs could cost more than she could afford. She tried to reason with herself and reminded her mind of rent and food and responsibility. Still she felt something strong inside her chest pushing her forward. She thought about how she had never taken a chance in her life and how everything always stayed the same. After a long silence, she told Frank she would buy it. She handed him the money carefully, as if afraid it would vanish. Frank took the bills and held them for a moment before placing them in his pocket. He gave her the keys even though he said they might not work anymore. His hands shook slightly as he passed them to her. Maya thanked him and promised she would take care of the car. Frank nodded and said little else. He watched the Mustang as Maya stood beside it and imagined what would come next. She called a friend to help tow the car and waited while the sun slowly disappeared. During that time Frank remained quiet and distant. His eyes stayed fixed on the car like it held a story he had never finished telling. When the tow truck arrived, Maya felt nervous but hopeful. She climbed into the passenger seat of the truck and looked back at the yard. Frank raised his hand gently and she waved back. She did not know why she felt emotional leaving the place. It felt like more than a simple purchase and she could not explain it. That night Maya sat beside the Mustang in her small driveway and stared at it under the porch light. She wondered if she had made a mistake or followed a dream that would lead nowhere. She imagined herself driving it one day and feeling proud for the first time in years. She whispered that she would try her best. Across town, Frank sat alone at his table with an old photo in his hands. The picture showed a younger version of himself standing beside the same Mustang when it was new. His eyes filled with quiet emotion as he thought about Maya. He knew the car had chosen her for a reason, and he knew the story was not finished yet. He stood up slowly and walked to a locked cabinet in the corner of his room. Inside rested documents and a small worn envelope. Frank touched the envelope and took a deep breath. Tomorrow he would do something he had planned for years. Maya had no idea that buying the Mustang was only the beginning. A surprise waited ahead that would change her life in ways she could never expect. Morning light fell softly over the Mustang as Maya stood outside with a cup of tea in her hands. She had barely slept and her mind kept running through worries and hopes. The car looked even older in the daylight and every scratch told a silent story. She knew fixing it would not be easy, but she felt a strange sense of pride just seeing it there. For the first time in a long while she felt ownership over something meaningful. Maya called a local mechanic named Paul who was known for being honest and patient. He arrived later that day and walked slowly around the Mustang. He lifted the hood and studied the engine with careful eyes. Maya watched his face closely, hoping for good news. Paul finally spoke and said the car needed serious work, but it was not beyond saving. He explained the costs would be high and repairs would take time. Maya thanked him and nodded quietly. She did not feel regret, but she did feel fear. Her savings were almost gone and her future felt uncertain again. That evening she returned to her routine of work and tired streets. Still her thoughts stayed with the Mustang and the feeling it gave her. She felt as if the car had chosen her rather than the other way around. Across town Frank woke early and prepared himself carefully. He dressed neatly and placed the worn envelope inside his coat. His steps were slow but his purpose was clear. He had spent the night thinking about Maya and her quiet determination. He believed she was the right person, and now the time had come to act. Maya was surprised when Frank appeared at her door later that afternoon. He stood there with a calm smile and asked if he could see the car. She welcomed him in and led him to the driveway. Frank walked around the Mustang slowly and placed his hand on the roof. His eyes reflected both sadness and peace. He thanked Maya for keeping it safe. They sat together on the steps and talked for a while. Frank asked about her life and listened closely without interrupting. Maya shared her struggles and her hopes with honesty. She did not know why she trusted him so easily. Frank nodded and seemed proud of her courage. After a quiet moment Frank reached into his coat and pulled out the envelope. He held it gently and told Maya that the Mustang was more than just an old car. He explained that it had belonged to his wife who had passed away many years ago. She had loved the car and believed it carried luck for those who treated it with care. Frank said he had waited a long time to find the right person to pass it on to. Maya listened closely and felt her chest tighten with emotion. Frank handed her the envelope and told her to open it when she was ready. He stood up slowly and said he needed to go. Before leaving he told her she had made the right choice even if it did not feel like it yet. Then he walked away with steady steps. Maya sat alone holding the envelope for a long time. When she finally opened it she found old documents and a letter written in careful handwriting. The letter explained that the Mustang came with something more. Frank had set aside a fund many years ago meant for the car restoration and for the person who would care for it next. The money was enough to cover the repairs and more. Maya felt tears rise as she read each line. She could not believe what she was seeing. The weight she had carried for so long seemed to lift in that moment. She understood that Frank had trusted her with more than a car. He had trusted her with a piece of his life. In the days that followed Maya began the repairs with new hope. She worked hard and learned alongside the mechanic. The Mustang slowly began to change and so did she. Each step forward felt like proof that taking a chance could lead to something good. She thought often about Frank and his kindness. Frank watched from a distance and felt at peace. He knew his past had found a new purpose. The Mustang was alive again and so was the promise he had made long ago. He smiled knowing that Maya was building something of her own. As weeks passed Maya drove the Mustang for the first time. The engine sound filled her with joy and pride. She felt strong and capable and free. The road ahead no longer felt empty. She knew this journey was only beginning and the surprise she received had changed her life forever. Maya woke up before sunrise with a quiet excitement in her chest. The Mustang rested outside like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Each day since the repairs began she felt stronger and more focused. Her routine had changed without her noticing. She smiled more and walked with purpose. Even her sister noticed the difference and asked what had changed. Maya only said that sometimes hope arrives quietly. The mechanic Paul continued working on the Mustang with care and patience. He explained every step to Maya and encouraged her to learn. She listened closely and asked questions without fear. Grease stained her hands and dust covered her clothes, but she felt proud. For the first time she was building something instead of just surviving. The car became a teacher and a mirror of her own growth. As days turned into weeks, the Mustang slowly returned to life. The engine responded with strength, and the body shined brighter than before. Maya often sat inside the car after work and imagined future drives. She pictured open roads and freedom that once felt impossible. The sound of the engine felt like a heartbeat that matched her own. Frank watched from a distance without interfering. He visited the yard less often and spent more time walking around his quiet neighborhood. He felt lighter knowing the Mustang was in good hands. He remembered his wife and the joy she felt driving that car. He believed she would be happy knowing it now gave someone else a chance at a better life. One afternoon Maya decided to visit Frank. She felt the need to thank him properly and share her progress. When she arrived at his small house, she noticed the garden was neatly kept and full of life. Frank welcomed her with warmth and surprise. They sat together and talked for hours about the past and the future. Maya showed him photos of the Mustang and described every repair with excitement. Frank listened with a gentle smile and nodded proudly. He told her stories about his wife and how she believed kindness always returned in unexpected ways. Maya felt honored to carry that belief forward. She promised she would never forget what the Mustang represented. As Maya left, Frank gave her a small box. Inside was a set of old keys and a note. The note explained that the Mustang had once won a local show and held memories of joy and laughter. Frank said the keys were a reminder that some things never lose their value. Maya held the box carefully and felt the weight of trust once again. Back home, Maya began driving the Mustang more often. Each drive brought confidence and clarity. She noticed people smiling and waving as she passed. The car became a symbol of perseverance and hope. Maya realized that her story had started inspiring others without her trying. She began sharing her journey with people she met. Neighbors asked about the car and she told them honestly how it came into her life. Her story spread quietly and reached people who needed encouragement. Maya saw how a simple act of kindness could ripple outward. She felt grateful to be part of something bigger than herself. Frank felt peace knowing his decision had created change. He no longer felt tied to the past with sadness. Instead, he felt connected to the present with purpose. He believed that letting go was sometimes the greatest gift. Watching Maya thrive confirmed that belief. One evening Maya parked the Mustang by the open road and watched the sunset. She thought about how fear once controlled her choices. Now she felt brave enough to dream again. She knew challenges would still come, but she felt ready. The Mustang stood beside her as proof that life could change when least expected. Maya drove home with confidence and gratitude. Her journey was far from over, but she felt prepared for what lay ahead. The surprise Frank gave her was not just money or a car. It was belief and trust and a chance to grow. She carried that gift with her wherever she went. As the stars appeared in the sky, Maya smiled and rested her hands on the steering wheel. She whispered thanks to the past and welcomed the future. The road ahead felt open and full of promise. The Mustang continued to carry her forward just as it was meant to. Maya felt a calm strength settle inside her as the weeks continued to pass. Life did not suddenly become easy, but it became meaningful. Every morning she stepped outside and saw the Mustang waiting quietly. It reminded her that progress could be slow and still powerful. She began to plan her days with intention instead of fear. Small goals replaced old doubts and each one felt achievable. The Mustang became part of her daily life and not just a project. She drove it to work and to the market, and sometimes just along empty roads to clear her thoughts. The sound of the engine gave her comfort. She felt present in each moment and no longer rushed through life. People noticed her confidence and asked how she changed so much. Maya answered honestly and said she learned to trust herself. She explained that one choice led to another and courage followed action. Her sister listened closely and felt inspired. The home felt warmer and laughter returned to their evenings. Even simple meals felt special because hope sat with them at the table. One day Maya received an invitation to a local car gathering. Paul had shared her story without asking, and people wanted to see the Mustang. Maya felt nervous but decided to go. She parked the car among others and stood quietly at first. Soon people gathered and admired the Mustang and asked questions. Maya shared the story with humility and respect. She spoke about Frank and his wife and the meaning behind the car. People listened closely and some even grew emotional. The Mustang stood as more than metal and paint. It stood as proof that kindness could travel across time. Frank attended the gathering without telling Maya. He stood at a distance and watched her speak with confidence. His eyes filled with quiet pride as he saw how far she had come. He felt a deep sense of peace knowing the Mustang had found its place. The promise he made years ago was finally complete. After the event, Frank approached Maya and thanked her. He said she had given new life to old memories. Maya thanked him in return and said she would always honor the story. They stood together and looked at the Mustang in silence. Words were not needed in that moment. As time passed, Maya began to help others who felt stuck. She shared her experience and listened to their struggles. She never claimed to have answers, but she offered understanding. People found comfort in her honesty and strength. The ripple of kindness continued to spread. Maya saved money and made plans for the future. She considered opening a small workshop with Paul to help restore old cars. The idea felt bold but exciting. She remembered how she once feared taking risks. Now she understood that growth required faith. Frank continued his quiet life with a lighter heart. He visited his wife's resting place and spoke of peace and gratitude. He believed she would smile knowing the Mustang carried hope again. His days felt complete and full of meaning. One evening Maya drove the Mustang along a long open road. The sky glowed softly and the air felt calm. She thought about the journey that began with a broken bus and a forgotten yard. She smiled at how far she had come. She felt proud and thankful. Maya stopped the car and stepped out to watch the horizon. She took a deep breath and felt grounded. Life was still unfolding and challenges would return. But she trusted herself now. She knew she could move forward with courage. The Mustang stood behind her shining quietly. It carried stories of the past and dreams of the future. Maya placed her hand on the hood and felt connection and gratitude. She whispered thanks and stepped back inside. As she drove home, she felt ready for whatever awaited her. The road stretched ahead and she welcomed it fully. The life-changing surprise had done more than change her situation. It had changed her spirit. Maya returned home with peace in her heart. She knew that some moments defined a lifetime. Buying the Mustang was one of them. And its journey with her was only beginning. Maya woke up on a bright morning with a new kind of energy in her chest. She no longer felt like life was pushing her around. She felt like she had a steering wheel in her hands. The Mustang sat outside clean and steady like it belonged there. The town looked the same, but Maya felt different inside. She made tea and stood by the window for a moment. She realized she was ready to build something bigger now. At work she noticed how people spoke to her with more respect than before. She did not chase attention, but confidence has a way of showing itself. Her manager asked if she could train a new worker, and Maya agreed calmly. She explained things with patience, and the new worker relaxed. Maya remembered how it felt to be afraid and unsure. She chose kindness because someone once chose kindness for her. She finished her shift with less stress than usual. She felt proud of small wins that used to feel invisible. After work she met Paul at the workshop and they talked seriously for the first time about a real plan. Paul said the town needed a place where regular people could restore old cars without feeling judged. Maya said she wanted a place that felt welcoming and honest. They wrote ideas on paper and talked about tools and space and time. Maya suggested a small name that felt simple and warm. Paul smiled and said it sounded right. They both understood the workshop was not only about cars. It was about giving people a second chance the way the Mustang got one. Over the next weeks Maya saved money with discipline and cut off small waste without feeling bitter. She packed meals and walked when she could and avoided buying things that did not matter. Her sister helped too and even offered to manage messages and calls. The home felt like a team now instead of two tired people surviving. Maya also started learning basic repair steps more deeply. Paul taught her how to listen to an engine and how to spot a problem early. She made mistakes and laughed instead of feeling ashamed. Each lesson made her feel more capable and more free. One afternoon Frank called Maya and asked if she could visit him. Maya arrived and found him sitting on his porch with a blanket over his knees. He looked thinner than before, but his eyes were still clear. Maya sat beside him and listened as he spoke slowly. He said he was glad he met her when he did. He said the Mustang was doing exactly what his wife hoped it would do. Maya felt emotion rise, but she stayed steady and respectful. She told him his gift had changed her life in more ways than he could know. Frank then handed her another envelope and asked her to open it at home. Maya held it gently and promised she would. They talked about simple things like weather and gardens and how the town was changing. Frank said he liked hearing Maya speak about the future. He said it made him feel like the world was still moving in a good direction. Before Maya left, he placed his hand on her shoulder with a quiet strength. He told her to keep choosing courage even when fear returned. Maya nodded and felt the words sink into her bones. That night Maya opened the envelope at her kitchen table. Inside was a letter and a small document with Frank's careful handwriting. The letter said Frank had one more surprise for her. He explained that years ago he had rented a small storage space behind his old yard. He said it held parts and tools he collected for the Mustang long ago. He also wrote that the space was now hers to use for her new workshop plan. Maya read the lines twice because she could not believe it. Her sister covered her mouth with both hands and tears filled her eyes. Maya felt gratitude so deep it made her quiet. The next day Maya and Paul visited the storage space together. The door rolled up with a heavy sound and dust floated in the sunlight. Inside were labeled boxes and wrapped parts and old manuals stacked neatly. There was a workbench and shelves and even a few tools that looked barely used. Paul walked slowly like he was entering a museum of purpose. Maya touched the bench and imagined a future where the space became a real place for work and hope. She could already picture people coming in with tired cars and tired hearts. She could already see the moment their faces changed when they realized help was possible. Maya felt a steady warmth in her chest and she smiled. Maya decided to honor Frank and his wife in a way that felt right and simple. She placed a small framed photo of the Mustang in its early days on the wall near the bench. She added a short note under it that said kindness keeps moving. She did not make it big or dramatic. She wanted it to feel quiet and true just like the story itself. Paul agreed and said the space already felt different. Maya cleaned the floor and opened windows to let fresh air in. Her sister brought water and snacks and laughed at the dust on Maya's cheeks. For the first time the future felt like something they could actually touch. Word spread in the town that Maya was opening a small restoration place. People started stopping by to look and talk and share their own stories. One man said he had a truck that belonged to his father and he wanted to fix it, but he felt embarrassed. Maya told him there was nothing embarrassing about caring for what mattered. A woman said she had an old car that reminded her of better times and she wanted to feel those times again. Maya listened and nodded and said they would take it one step at a time. Even people who did not own cars came by to encourage her. Maya realized the Mustang story had become a town story now. It was not about showing off but about sharing hope. Weeks later the workshop had its first real project under Maya's name. It was not a show car and it was not perfect, and that made it even more meaningful. Maya worked carefully and Paul guided when needed. They explained everything clearly and kept prices fair and honest. The customer cried quietly when the engine started again. Maya did not rush the moment or make it loud. She simply stood nearby and let the joy breathe. She realized this was what Frank's wife meant by luck. Luck was not magic but a chain of good choices and good people. On a calm evening Maya drove the Mustang to Frank's house again. She brought a small basket of food and a simple thank you card made by her sister. Frank sat on the porch and smiled when he heard the engine. Maya parked and walked up slowly, feeling the weight of gratitude in every step. She told him the workshop had started and the storage space was already helping people. Frank listened with peaceful eyes and nodded as if he expected nothing less. Maya told him the Mustang would always carry his story with care. Frank said that was all he ever wanted. As Maya drove home under a soft sky, she felt something settle into place inside her. She understood the life-changing surprise was never only about money or tools or a car. It was about being seen at the right moment. It was about trust passed from one heart to another. It was about choosing to lift someone instead of watching them fall. Maya gripped the steering wheel gently and breathed in the cool air. She felt ready for more work and more dreams and more quiet miracles. The Mustang rolled forward with steady strength and Maya smiled into the road ahead.